Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I got another review for my class about young adult literature. Today I'll be talking about The Marrow, Thieves by Cherie, Dimaline. I know I just held up an actual copy of it. I did an immersive read. I did both audiobook and I read from the paperback. I tried audiobook only, but my attention span just, for whatever reason, doesn't work for just audiobook anymore. So I had to switch to immersive. One of the requirements for the class for this project is you attempt to do one of the books as either audio or Kindle, but because I already purchased it, I didn't want to purchase it again through Kindle. And I had a free credit on Audible. I wasn't too big of a fan of the audio version, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was, performance for me, but I will spoil a little bit of my thoughts. I did really enjoy the book. Just maybe not the audio recording of it. So a little bit about The Marrow Thieves, why I chose this book and what it is about. First, why I chose this book. For the class, as a full class, we actually just finished reading Firekeeper's Daughter, which is about indigenous people in around the Great Lakes in Michigan, and I really wanted another story about indigenous people. The Marrow Thieves focuses on mainly in Canada, but I thought it did a pretty good job of, I thought I could really pair the two together, and that's why I kind of went with it. It is a dystopian science fiction book, and that's something else I'm interested in. So yeah, that's really why I picked it. My other books I picked, I kind of had to Google around, but I remember seeing this in one of the slides that our professor showed, so I figured, hey, if he has it on the slides, it's pretty safe to read. It must be pretty decent. But what is Marrow Thieves about? Again, as I said a little bit ago, it is a dystopian science fiction, kind of light on the science fiction part, heavy on the dystopian, and it is a near future story. I believe you even see a little bit of dates in there where it's like, I think 2049. One of the characters holds up an ID where they find an ID and it says that. So in the distant future, or not so distant future, I should say, the world has just gone completely, totally to crap. Global warming has caused the ice caps to melt. Disease is everywhere. Famine is everywhere. Storms are everywhere. The world is like sort of recovering after all this, after all the wars. I know it mentioned water wars for fresh water. After all this, the land has settled, but people have lost the ability to dream. Not all people. The indigenous people of North America, I think just North America, still retain the ability to dream. And this causes everyone else to kind of, lose their mind. Because they're not able to dream, they're not able to have hope. They go psychotic, they start killing each other even more, and they look for ways to fix this problem. And their, ingenious solution is to study indigenous people and to take the bone marrow from them. So they hunt down indigenous people, kill them, harvest their bone marrow, and use that as a way to try to cure their restlessness and their dreamless nights. Very brutal and dark subject matter. But again, it is a dystopian. And it really, it fits exactly what I imagined. First, what did I like? Or a little bit more first. I almost forgot to include the main character. The main character. We, in this not so distant future, we follow 16-year-old French, or Francis. His found family calls him French. His father, his mother, and his brother call him Francis. We follow his journey as he treks along the wilderness in Canada with a group of other native survivors, and their adventure. I don't want to say adventures. Their ordeal as they are trekking across. The everyday things that they find, the people that they run across, the places that they stay. As they head up north, and the farther they go up north, the more freedom and hopeful they become. But all around them and all around Canada, there are schools cropping up where recruiters are trying to catch them, and these recruiters are the ones who are going to, capture the natives, suck out their bone marrow with machines, and then use that as kind of a cure and a medicine. Um, I, you know, I will go ahead and start. One with things that I liked about it, definitely the main character, Francis, or French. I thought he was a very compelling character. He sounded exactly like a 16-year-old would sound, even in this dystopian future. I could see a teenager in 2049 talking and acting just like this. Which maybe is sad to think about because, again, this is end of the world stuff. I don't want to think about a 16-year-old acting like this, but I think this author did a pretty good job of showing just a hateful and hard world, and how a teenager would react to that, and how a teenager would sound and how a teenager would act. I thought it was pretty accurate, at least from my understanding of teenagers and my experience as a teacher. But I really liked French. He was a great character. The rest of the characters I also enjoyed. Um, Rose, they find Rose. This is not a spoiler. This happens pretty early on. Rose is, I think, 15 or 16 years old as well, and she is the girl that is closest to his age. So you can kind of guess how he'll think about her. Just two teenagers trying to survive in the apocalypse. But I also really loved, and again, I did the audiobook. I wasn't really paying attention too much because, again, my ability to concentrate while just listening. But I believe it's Migwans or Mig. He is the leader of the group. Minerva is another elder of the group. Those two characters I really enjoyed as well. All of them, Riri, Chai Boy, Zigwan, Tree, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. All of them, shown in their own ways, I think. They were all very distinct to one another. And I like the group. I could see the group dynamics pretty easily and pretty well, which goes into one of the themes, right? They found family. I thought, the author did a pretty good job of discussing found family, and our roles in trying to protect our family, what we would do in order to protect them. I thought that was pretty good stuff. Speaking of themes, that was actually like a really powerful thing that I liked. I liked how much the author in the story focused on not only just found family, but the importance of language and stories as well. I teach mythology, I teach literature to middle schoolers, and I always hope and pray, right, that I am able to teach them the importance of stories. We are what we read, we are what we write, we are what we enjoy. And, French, because he's so young, he's not really one in his native society. He doesn't really have those memories. And he tries to connect with the elders in his survival group. And they share with him and they share with the other kids all these stories and these practices and these cultures. And he grows very attached to it. His soul yearns for it. And I think that was really powerful as well. Just this idea of, how important our stories, our cultures, our languages, they are to us because we want to belong to a community. I thought that was really well done as well. This is a young adult book, and it is dystopian, but I thought, at the end of the day, it is also a love story, more about family, more than anything. There is a romantic side, or romance side, I should say, to this, because again, there are two teenagers and then two older teenagers who are part of the group as well. Really, the love story is more about family, and I thought that was pretty well done. Another thing that I liked, and I swear to you, I did not plan this. I had an idea about the book as I was reading it. It reminded me over and over of The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It is a dystopian, it is brutal, it is very dark, but again, it is a story about survival and what a family would do for one another. In the case of The Road, is about a father, what he would do for a son. In this case, is about just the different family members in their found family, what they would do for one another. And I kept thinking, oh wow, this is a young adult version of The Road, which I don't think is always fair to say, but I do mean that in a good way. I don't want to just make comparisons because this book I do think can stand on its own. But I did not plan this. Because I did the audiobook, at least at first, and before I did the immersive reading, I missed this completely. But at the beginning of the book, There is a preface, 2 quotes, and one of the quotes is actually from The Road by Cormac McCarthy. When you've nothing else, or excuse me, where you've nothing else, construct ceremonies out of the air and breathe upon them. That is from the book, and I was just like, okay. I found that like 5 minutes before even recording this, so even the author knows that. She acknowledges that there is, influence from The Road, and I think, someone much smarter than me could really do a great comparison between the two. Maybe even write a whole paper or even do a great video on that. I I really like The Road, and I really like this as well. So if I find any students who I think might enjoy The Road, instead of giving them that, because I do think, I got to protect myself as a teacher, right? I don't want parents or administration to complain, or not complain, but you know what I'm saying, right? As a teacher, I need to make sure that, because of the climate and where I teach and when I'm teaching, right? I got to be careful about what I recommend to students, but if I find a student who I think might enjoy The Road, I might actually just slip them this book instead, which is another thing that I like. I do think, I don't think I could give it to a 6th grader or even 7th grader, but potentially an 8th grader and up, and I do teach 8th grade. Even though I said all these great things, is this going to be an all-time favorite or classic for me? No, and I can't even tell you why. Sometimes a book just really grabs me and grabs my attention, and I know immediately that it's going to be, a 5-star A+ book. This one I did end up giving a B, and I think maybe the reason why, again, immersive reading, audio, and with the book in front of me, maybe that's not for me. It's not the style that I like, but also the style of the writing. If there's one thing that does remind me a little bit about Cormac McCarthy, it is maybe the style. It has quotation marks and it has punctuation. Don't be afraid of that. But the story does. I've heard from some that it meanders. That is completely fair. I'm not going to tell people to read any other way. How you read is up to you. But the plot does take a while to develop, and it does move very slowly at times. And it does, the story and the plot, it does like to go back and forth between narratives, not characters, but time-wise. And it can happen in the middle of chapters, sometimes between just one paragraph is in one setting and the next paragraph is in a new setting, in a new time. So you do need to be careful about that. I do think the beginning was very slow, and I was, in all honesty, very confused about what was going on. But once I got into the story, I think I really enjoyed it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Marrow Thieves. I really enjoyed it. It will be something that I give to some of my students, which is actually why I'm recording it now. This is not my final review. I read a book before this, but I'm still gathering my thoughts on that. But I went ahead and recorded this review because I'm actually giving this book to one of my students. She saw me reading it. I think she's mature enough to handle it, and I'm going to let her borrow my copy. So I need to go ahead and get this review out so I can give it to her, and she can return it after the Thanksgiving break. But yeah, that's what I got. I hope more people read it. Yeah, if you read it, let me know what you thought. But like, subscribe, do whatever. Peace.